Here we are in Substance Painter. Let's bring in our file new, and I'll grab the FBX I made. Now a couple things, let's go to 2048. That's how big our textures will be by default. We can change this later. You want to make sure auto unwrap is unchecked because we just spend a bunch of time on the UVs. We don't want to redo those UVs. And we want to make sure it says PBR metallic roughness up here. You can say OK. And yeah, that was just because the previous one I had opened. OK, great. Now, quick tour of Substance Painter. This is going to allow us to really do a lot of great things, making our object look great. In addition to just sort of adding materials, we'll be able to add a lot of detail to it. There are a quick tour here. Over here, we've got general properties, the channels, just like the channels in our materials, and the mesh maps. We'll get to those in a second. Here we have two texture sets. When you import a model, each material becomes a texture set by default. And so our bowl material and our mixer material, right? And so bowl shows us the bowl parts and mixer shows us the mixer parts. That's good. Over here we have our layers. Substance Painter works very much like Photoshop, except you're painting on 3D things, and so there'll be a lot of layers and masks. That's how this primarily works. And then down here, the properties, this is where we're adjusting. And the shelf, this is all the built-in objects and materials and paintbrushes. All that is down here. And let's set things up. The first thing you need to do in Substance Painter to work is that let's not worry about the bowl for a second. Let's just worry about the mixer. So I'm going to turn that off here in the texture set. And we need to bake the mesh maps. Essentially, this is Substance Painter's way of computing a bunch of things about our model to make it possible to do a lot of cool things later on with our effects. And let's go and compute these mesh maps. So here, under our general properties, we have bake mesh maps. And we want to, again, set it to 2048. We can adjust this later if we need to. And say bake mixer. So that we're just worrying about the mixer right now. You'll see it'll calculate a bunch of things. This will go faster on a faster computer. It's calculating the ambient occlusion. It's recalculating a bunch of things about the normals. It's great. And all of these show up over here. The normal map should look familiar. We're not going to touch these. These are sort of background information that Substance is going to use to calculate different patterns on our model that are informed by the actual geometry of the model. Great, let's get rolling. And our basic idea is that we bring in a material and then we can use a mask to select different parts of that model to apply that material to. So we want, this basic plastic on a lot of this. And so I'm going to come over here to materials and I can select it here. And I can look for plastic on the shelf. And here we go. I'll grab this glossy plastic and drag it up here. And it'll create a fill layer. And you see it fills in the whole layer with glossy plastic. Great. Now, we only want this to be part of it. And so we need to right click and mask it out. So I'm going to add a black mask. Just like Photoshop, the visual representation here. So this mask, black, will be getting rid of the layer and white will be revealing it. Right now it's all black, so we're back to just gray. And so we need to reveal parts of it based on our geometry. And so over here, this is our Polygon Fill. We're going to use polygon selections to fill in this mask. So I have the mask selected, not the layer, the mask. And over here, the easiest way to do this, and the reason why we got rid of some things here, is with UV chunks. And so if we have our UV chunks set up well, this is easy. And so now I can come in here and select this. And since all of that is one UV chunk, that makes that very easy. It fills it in with just the plastic there. And so what else do we want to be blue? This, all of this. Actually, all of this is one mesh. And so I can come over here and use mesh fill. And so, for instance, on this side, I'm going to say this whole mesh, right? The whole mesh, not the UV chunk, but the actual mesh. There we go. That's good. What else do we want to be blue here? This bottom one. There we go. Let's go with that for now. And so UV chunk or mesh, right? Mesh being the actual mesh from the Cinema 4D and UV chunk being the chunks up here. Great. Now let's bring in some metal. And so let's look for metal over here. And if you mouse over for a second, you get a exploded view. I want something with a little bit more texture to it. I like that. That's a little too much texture. We'll go with this platinum for now. I'll put this up there and it covers all of that up. And same process. Right click, add black mask. And now let's stay in UV chunk mode. Or let's go to mesh to fill in our beaters. And so here, 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 here. Good. And then here, 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 and here. There we go. Now the beaters are all metallic. Nice. What else do I want to be that platinum? Let's do this ring here. And this is, oops, that's the mesh. But remember, that's all part of one mesh, but we separated it out with UV chunk. And so let's go back to UV and select that. There we go. Cool. Nice. This needs to be the same. So down here, select that and make sure we're in UV chunk mode and just click right there so that fills that in. Cool. That's better. Now, let's bring in a plastic of some kind. Let's go back and look for plastic and spell plastic correctly. There we go. And I want kind of a, black. That's a pattern. I like that. So we'll use this grainy plastic. I'll drag that up to the top. And okay, well, we know how to mask it out, but the pattern itself is way too big. And so with this selected, I'm going to grab this and use the scale to scale down this noise that's being used to create this bump pattern. And let's go this way, or scale it up rather, until it's a pretty tight. There we go. That's more of what I want to see. I like that. Okay, good. And so we want to put this on the handle and the back black part. Let's do that. And so right click, add black mask. Let's go to UV chunk, or mesh will give us the whole handle. There we go. And then UV chunk should give us this part there and this part there. And then we want to also do UV chunk here. There we go. And nice. And what else needs to be black? The trigger. Let's make that black. And then the plastic, let's also put that down there. Nice. Cool. Let's go back to the platinum color a little bit and add some more to that. And so UV chunk, I want this to be the platinum up there. We have to also select, let's say if mesh gives it to us. There it does. Okay. And let's do also up here. Good. And the inside of these, I want to be that metallic color. Nice. That looks good too. And that gave us that part there. And now we have this part here, which is a little bit different. I'm going to use a different metal for that. Let's look at that. Just something to give it a slightly different metallic texture. Let's say this one. And again, right click and say add black mask. Let's go to mesh, fill, and select that. Great. And let's make this the same thing here. This should be mesh. Mesh. We missed this blue part. Let's come back and grab that. There we go. Grab that. Make sure that that's all good. Let's double check, look around. This front part up here. I want that to be this look. And so I'm going to select that and say, let's go with the UV chunk here. Nice. Okay, let's look at this. You can go back up to the just brush and look around. Good. All right, this iron here. Let's look at this. I don't know if I like that pattern quite as much. Let's scroll down here. And in this case, yeah, you can dial in or out the roughness of this. We make it a little more this. And you know what? I don't quite like, I like the pattern, but maybe not so much denting. And so I'm going to grab this one, and I may turn off the height channel on this and the normal. There we go. That gives me a little bit of texture without it being so hammered. If you chose a different metal, you don't have to be choosing the exact same materials I am. Cool. And I don't want it to be blue, so let's select this, the material, the layer material, not the mask. And under base color, if you have the material selected, we can dial in a different color. I'm going to make mine an orange. Maybe right about there. Maybe, yeah, like that. Maybe right about there. Cool. And there we go. Let's go ahead and Control S and save this substance file. And so this is Farina mixer substance. And we have our base stuff worked out for our mixer. Looking good.